or high. Newcastle, the city in Australia in the state of New South Wales. The population about 289,000 people. 2007. With suburbs minus 523.6 thousand. It is the second city of the state after Sydney by the number of inhabitants. It is located in 162 km to the north from Sydney, on the bank of the Tasman Sea in the mouth of the Hunter River. The port of Newcastle is the world leader in coal export. Till 1950 in Newcastle the tram network worked. In September 1797 the Lieutenant John Shortland became the first European settler exploring this area. His opening of area was substantially accidental, as it was sent for a search of several convicts which seized the vessel of local production under the name Cumberland when it plied at from the Sydney Bay. Having returned, the Lieutenant Shortland entered what he described later as very beautiful river, which I called in honor of the Governor of New South Wales, John Hunter. He returned with messages about deep water port and about abundance of coal in this area. Within the next 2 years the coal extracted in this area became the first export goods of colony New South Wales. Newcastle gained reputation of an infernal hole, as it was the place where the most dangerous prisoners were sent to dig to coal mines as severe punishment for the crimes. By the beginning of the 19th century the mouth of the Hunter River was visited by various groups of people, including coal miners, woodcutters and other runaway prisoners. Philip Gidley King, the Governor of New South Wales since 1800, decided to use more positive approach to use of obvious natural resources of the Valley Hunter now. In 1801 the camp for prisoners under the name Royal City, called in honor of the Governor King, for coal mining and sawing up of wood was founded. The same year to Sydney it was sent. The first consignment of coal. The settlement was closed less than in a year. In 1804 an attempt of the settlement as the place of secondary punishment of disobedient prisoners was made again. This settlement was called the Coal River, also Kingstown, and then is renamed into Newcastle in honor of the known coal port of England. The name for the first time appeared in the commission given by the Governor King on March 15, 1804 to the Lieutenant Charles Menzies from C Group on Calcutta, then in Port Jackson, having appointed him the superintendent of the new settlement. The new settlement consisting of prisoners and military guard came to the Hunter River on March 27, 1804 by 3 ships. On Lady Nelson, Resource and James. Convicts were rebels from a revolt of convicts on Castle Hill in 1804. Communication about Newcastle upon Tyne, England. His namesake. And also with the place from where there arrived many miners of the 19th century, is still obvious in some toponyms, such as Jesmond, Hexham, Yukon, Wallsend and Gateshead. Morpeth, New South Wales is at the same distance to the north from Newcastle as Morpeth, Northumberland is to the north from Newcastle upon Tyne. At the Captain James Wallace, the Commandant from 1815 to 1818, conditions of keeping of prisoners improved, and the construction boom began. The Captain Wallace laid city streets, constructed the first church on the place of present Anglican Cathedral Christ Church, built old prison on the seashore and began works on a pier which is connected now by Nobbs Head to the continent. The quality of these first constructions was bad and only strongly strengthened. Breakwater remained. During this period, in 1816, in East Newcastle the oldest public school in Australia was constructed. Newcastle remained a corrective settlement till 1822, when the settlement was opened for agriculture. In corrective labour colony, the military board was severe, especially in the Gulf flame burners, on Peninsula Stockton inside. Their convicts were sent to burn sinks of oysters for lime production. The military board in Newcastle ended in 1823. The number of prisoners was laid off to 100. Most of them was engaged at construction of a breakwater, and the others 900 were sent to Port Macquarie. After removal of the last convicts in 1823, the city was freed from notorious influence of the criminal law. He began to take a form of the typical Australian settlement of pioneers, and the constant flow of free settlers rushed to internal areas. Formation in the 19th century of the steamship company Newcastle and Hunter River led to creation of regular steamship transportations from Morpeth and Newcastle to Sydney. The company had the fleet of cargo vessels and also several high-speed passenger ships, including Pease Newcastle and Pease Nemo. On the Nemo there were first-class cabins with the latest conveniences. Because of coal supply, the small ships plied between Newcastle and Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne and Adelaide, delivering coal to gas works and bunkers for navigation and the railroads. They were widely known as 60 miles, designating a voyage between Newcastle and Sydney. These ships continued to be operated to net minimally. During World War II, Newcastle was the important industrial centre of the Australian military operations. Early in the morning on June 8, 1942, the Japanese I-21 submarine for a while fired at Newcastle. Among affected areas of the city there were shipyards, steel foundry, Parnell Place in east end of the city, and ocean bathtubs in style of Art Deco. During the attack, victims weren't, the damage was minimum. The port of Newcastle remains economic and shopping centre, rich with resources of the Valley Hunter and also the most part of the north and the northwest of New South Wales. Newcastle, the world's largest port for coal export and also the oldest and second largest tonnage port of Australia, about more than 3,000 sea vessels, processing freights of 95.8 million tonnes per year, of which export of coal made 90.8 million tonnes in 2008-2009. Ecological groups counteract volumes of the exported coal and attempts of increase in export of coal. In Newcastle there was a shipbuilding industry, including shipyard of the island of Woolwich and the engineering plants, the state shipyard and Forgax's shipyard. In recent years, construction of mine hunters of the Class 1 was the only large contract for vessel construction received in this area. The era of the developed heavy industry passed when the steel foundry was closed in 1999. Many of the remained productions of manufacturing industry were located right as Cotton Road. In Newcastle there is one of the oldest theatrical regions of Australia. Theatre of Victoria on Perkins Street, the oldest specially constructed theatre in the country. Theatrical quarter, which occupied the territory around present shopping centre Hunter Street, disappeared in the 1940th years. In the old downtown several new apartments and hotels were built in recent years, but the employment rate in commercial and trade rooms remains low while the alternative suburban centres became more important. The central business region is displaced on the west, towards the main area of updating of the city known as Honeysuckle. This updating, which will last 10 more years, is an important part of control of moving of business and inhabitants to the suburb. Commercial updating was followed by cultural revival. In the city there is a bright art scene, including the known art gallery and the operating center of Writers Hunters. Recent art representations. For example, the Steel River of Antoinette Eklund represent new vision of the city, using the historical past of the city as a background for modern fiction. In the old central business region located in east part of Newcastle, a significant amount of historical buildings, among which the Cathedral Christ Church, the residence of the Anglican Bishop of Newcastle, prevails, still remained. Among other remarkable buildings, Scretchley's Fort, Ocean Baths, Old Customs, a town hall of the 1920th years, the Lungwater Institute of the 1890th years, which was once considered as the best building in Colony, and the University House of the 1930th years in style of Art Deco, the former house of Nesca noticed in the movie Return of the Superman. In April 2008, the city hosted the Hockey World Cup of the 2nd Division. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.